Welcome to another episode of Tourism Today. I'm John Cooper with Yakima Valley Tourism, and I'm glad you could join us. The wine industry is big business for our county, responsible for 1,900 direct jobs, over 77 million in wages, and 826 million in business revenue. Home to nearly 100 wineries in just 70 short miles, the Yakima Valley also contains more than 17,000 acres of vineyards. Our region produces a bulk quantity of Washington State's wine grapes, supporting winemakers not only locally, but throughout the state. And of course, our quality wines and wine country experience play a very critical role in bringing visitors to the Yakima Valley. To give a statewide perspective on the industry, I'm very pleased to have Steve Warner, President of the Washington State Wine Commission, on the program today. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, John, great to see you.
Good to see you again, too. I'm very glad to have you on the program to talk about one of my favorite subjects, our state wine industry, and I'm sure it's one of your favorite subjects, too.
Yeah.
But first off, let's tell the folks, what exactly is the Wine Commission? What does it do? What's its role?
It's a great question, John. And so the Washington State Wine Commission is actually a state entity that's underneath the Department of Agriculture. Our mission is primarily marketing and also investments in viticulture and enology research. So we are the entity that represents every licensed winery in the state and every grower in the state. And the unique thing about the commission structure that I really love is we have a board of directors, a board of commissioners that is made up of growers and winemakers, big and small, east and west, to get a broad representation of the entire industry. And then the second thing I really like about the structure is that we're in a position to promote the brand Washington State Wine, not only nationally, but internationally. And that frees up time for the regions like Yakima Valley or the wineries to tell their own story. We tell the Washington story, they tell their regional story or their own winery story. And as you know, in tourism, it's about experience, it's about story, it's about connection. And those valuable minutes when you're engaging with a customer or a traveler, you really, really want them to learn your story and get to know you and your winery.
And it's really great too, all over the state. I mean, we have 1,000 wineries throughout our state. And how many growers are there?
Well, we're right now roughly about 450 growers, a little, as you rightly said, a little over 1,000 wineries. And if you think back to when the first AVA, American Viticulture area, was established in 1983, it happened to be the Yakima Valley AVA.
Right here.
Right there, 1983. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. I mean, I was graduating high school, Cle Elum High School in 1983. We didn't really have a wine region. We had roughly 40 wineries, and nobody in the world knew who we were. You fast forward to today, and now we are a global player. Everybody in the world of wine knows Washington and knows us for quality, knows us for our innovation. And it's really amazing because in the world of wine, that period is a very, very short period of time. When you compare that to how long wine has been made in Italy and France and Spain, we're the first, second generation new kids on the block where they've been going at it. But even in this short of time, we already are competing with the best of the world.
Why do you think we're producing such good wines? What is it about Washington State that makes it a great wine, grape, and winery region?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, and a question I get all the time, especially after people try the wines. They're like, wow. I think it goes back to our roots in Eastern Washington. We just have such a unique growing area for growing, whether it's hops or apples or whatever it is that we put in the soil out there. We can just grow amazing fruit. And what we know about wine in particular is, in order to make truly amazing wine, you have to start with amazing fruit. You can't make amazing wine out of so-so fruit. Mm-hmm. So what we've learned in relatively a few decades, which again is a small period of time in the world of wine, we've learned how to grow Cabernet and Merlot and Syrah and Chardonnay the way that our land needs it to grow, so that we can differentiate ourselves and really provide that quality. So for me, it's about what we use in the wine world, terroir. And terroir is just a combination, that makes a specific spot in the world unique. It's the soils, it's the climate, it's the temperature swings between daytime and nighttime, it's the lack of water in this case, it's the wind. All that is so important in growing wine grapes. And then you get that amazing fruit and you hand it off to the winemaker, and the winemaker does their thing and they turn this amazing fruit into amazing wine. And then people around the world take notice.
Great. And 2020, as we know, has been a extremely challenging years for all sectors of the industries and such with COVID and the pandemic. Tell us how it's affected our wineries and how have they responded?
Well, it hit them hard. I think most people probably recognize that winery tasting rooms, in particular, wineries and winery tasting rooms, were treated essentially in the same category as restaurants. So a big revenue source for wineries went away instantly overnight. We have roughly, out of those 1,000 wineries, roughly 960 of them are small wineries. And they rely on tasting room visits. They rely on local sales out what we call their cellar door. And that was shut down, and that had a dramatic impact on the industry, particularly in Eastern Washington during the summer months, typical tourism travel times. That was really tough. And so what the wineries had to do essentially is, I hate to use the word, but pivot, which is, that's going to be one of those 2020 words or vernacular that'll go down in history along with you're on mute. So they really had to pivot and look at what they could do and then try and do it as well as they possibly could. And then also try and innovate, which one good thing that came out of COVID is there was some innovation that came out of it, and probably some innovation that will stick around forever in perpetuity. But some specific examples is there was a strong pivot, obviously, to digital marketing, online sales. There was some really unique and innovative partnerships with restaurants, because restaurants, when they could do takeout, they're thinking, hey, support local restaurants, support local wineries, let's partner. And one great example is there were several wineries that would offer a discount on their wine to go, pickup service, curbside service, whatever it was, if you could show that you had a receipt from a local restaurant and that you bought takeout. So they'd give them an extra 10, 20%. It was really to show that we're in it together with the restaurants. Curbside pickup, I mentioned that. Outdoor, indoor seating, just following the rules, the strictest health guidelines, the safety guidelines, making sure that we were compliant all the way. But there were some adjustments that had to be made, for people to do outside, inside. Delivery, another great example. Wineries were, really adding that extra service by bringing wine orders directly to consumers.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of creativity here in the Valley, and we've been encouraging and assisting however we can to get the word out, and we continue to see it. And it really shows that in addition to the terroir, great wineries and great wine regions are all about the people and their ingenuity, as well as their ability to respond to conditions they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the commission. What are some of the projects you've got going on at this time to help profile our wines in this day and era that we're dealing with?
Mm-hmm. Well, and John, it's been obviously a big shift for us. A big part about what we did is we would bring some of the leading influencers in the world of wine, whether that was in media or big buyers or restaurant chains or whoever it was. We always felt that we could win when we could bring them to Washington and get them out into Eastern Washington and get them into the Yakima Valley, let them kick the dirt, experience harvest. We had many inbounds. We had big events like Taste Washington, which was the nation's largest single region food and wine event. And so we had many smaller events as well, as many as 65 programs and events per year with inbound tours. Obviously, a big portion of that went away when we couldn't do inbound and we couldn't do events. So we really had to shift a lot to supporting online sales, digital marketing, really pushing through support where wineries could make sales. And I think it all started, though, if I can just back up, I think it started with clear communications on what we could do and what we couldn't do. So we were very responsive and concise in our communications to the wineries based on what was coming down from Olympia and what wineries could do safely, what they couldn't do, and also modifications that were made. So that clear and concise communication was key. We partnered with the Wine Institute. We partnered with wine growers to make sure that we're all saying the same thing at exactly the same time, so there was no confusion about the message. After that, we looked at what we could do. I think one clear factor was that we had to change as much as we could, or not change, but affect the mindset of consumers in Washingtonians. What we wanted Washingtonians to realize is that when they go to the store, when they go to get takeout, or if they go to the wine shop or wherever it is they go, they have a choice that they can make. They can buy something from out of state, or they can buy something local. And that local will support a small business that's going through tough times. And we see that all the time. And I like to think that we were one of the very first ones to kind of start this support local small business. We launched a campaign called Drink for WA. And I'm sporting the shirt, Drink for WA. And it really is a campaign about supporting local, about getting consumers to think local first, understanding the impact it has on the local economy, local jobs. We parlayed that into an Eat for WA, which because we want to also acknowledge that there's a symbiotic relationship between restaurants and wineries. We need each other. And also we're both small businesses and we both have to survive. And we both need the community, surrounding community, to support us and help us get through this tough time. So we parlayed that into Eat for WA, Play for WA, Stay for WA. We worked with the Washington Hospitality Association, the Washington Tourism Alliance, Visit Seattle, all these organizations to roll out these assets to really drive home that point that you at home have a decision you make every time you go shopping, and think local, support local, and drink for WA.
Great. What do you see some of the future opportunities and issues down the line as we head towards 2021 and beyond?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mentioned before that wineries had made this transition and they've started to do things that were more innovative. Consumer behavior changed as well. Like they got used to maybe social distancing, sitting outside on a patio. They got used to making reservations, which are very helpful to wineries to have an idea of how many people are coming so that they can make sure that they're properly staffed, properly set up, that they've got the space for them, essentially. So I think there are going to be some things that we learn and come out of this that are going to stick with us. The innovation, the digital marketing, the online sales, it really highlighted the importance of digital marketing for wineries, that they really tried some new things, and a lot of it worked and some of it didn't work, but it forced them out of their comfort zone and they tried new things, and now it's going to be part of their DNA going forward. So I think those are all things that we can expect in 2021. Of course, we're going to be completely ready and suited up and get ready to get back in there and get people back out to Washington. In the meantime, we're going to continue with events like I mentioned Drink for WA. We have State Night, Date Night, which is something we promoted across social media channels, where we encourage consumers to, just have a takeout date, whether you want to take it home and eat it in your backyard at your, well, probably not this time of year, but if you want to take it home and eat it, or if you want to do the outdoor dining, if you want to eat in your car, but basically go on a little date, clear your head, support local restaurants, support local wineries, and have a date of it. Knowing that. We also had some fun things like virtual winemaker dinners. You wouldn't think they'd work, but people have adapted and they've learned how to adjust to that. Educational webinars, just on and on and on. Retail activations. So as much as we can do leading up to the reopenings, what I'm assuming will be phased reopenings, we need to do. But when as we reopen, we got to be ready to get people back in here, into Washington, because that's how we really win.
Well, you definitely have hit on a few key things that we've been working on too, and we appreciate all that you're doing at the Wine Commission and working with you and helping to get the word out. And definitely, for sure, I want to thank you for coming and driving home the message that we've also been driving home, and that is, do support your local economy. When you have that opportunity, serve Washington wine, give it as a gift, and support our local businesses, not only here, but around all of our states. So again, Steve, thank you for coming. I really appreciate your time and insights and all that the Washington Wine Commission is doing. And I want to thank you for joining us on this episode, and we'll see you on a future episode of Tourism Today. Thank you.